The silent approach commander, Thirek, stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the stars shift from brilliant streaks back to pinpoints of light as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace. His reptilian features remained stoic as he gazed through the reinforced viewport at the small yellow star ahead. This was Sol, home to the species that dared to exist without Imperial permission. The Vorthok Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Star systems bowed before their might. Countless species served as slaves or had been wiped from existence entirely. Today, System 48 would join their dominion, and the primitive humans would learn what happened to those who occupied space without Imperial consent. The Rex-scaled hands gripped the command rail as he surveyed his fleet through the tactical displays. 800 ships filled the void around him, each one a masterpiece of Vorthok engineering. 12 massive dreadnoughts led the formation, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons capable of cracking moons. Behind them came 60 heavy cruisers, each carrying enough firepower to level continents. The remainder consisted of destroyers, frigates, and troop carriers loaded with conquest battalions ready to claim whatever remained after the bombardment. Status report, Thirek commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, approached with datapad in hand. All vessels have successfully translated from hyperspace, Commander. We are positioned at the outer edge of the target system. Long-range sensors confirm one inhabited world, third planet from the primary star. Population estimates suggest approximately 8 billion of the target species. 8 billion was more than most worlds they conquered, but numbers meant nothing against Vorthok's superiority. The Empire had weapons that could sterilize entire continents in minutes. Population size only determined how long the harvest would take once resistance was eliminated. Defensive capabilities, Thirek inquired, though he already knew the answer. Imperial scouts had been observing this system for months, cataloging human technology and finding it laughably primitive. Minimal, Commander. Basic chemical propulsion. For local system transport, several small space stations in orbit around their homeworld. No energy shields detected anywhere in the system. Their most advanced weapons appear to be crude nuclear devices. Intelligence estimates they achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. Thirek allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Another easy conquest. The last 3 worlds had surrendered. Immediately upon seeing the Imperial fleet, the one before that had managed to destroy a single frigate before being eliminated. At least that had provided some entertainment. These humans appeared even less capable. Time to target planet, he asked. 18 hours at current approach speed, Commander. 18 hours until another world fell to Imperial might. 18 hours until the Vorthok Empire expanded once again. Thirek had overseen 37 planetary conquests in his career. The pattern never varied. Arrive in overwhelming force, demand immediate surrender, demonstrate superior firepower. Then begin systematic harvesting of resources and useful population. The remaining natives either served the Empire or joined their world's ashes. Earth was simply another coordinate on their star charts. Another primitive civilization that would be forgotten by history. Intelligence reports indicated the humans had barely explored their own solar system. Their largest vessels were crude mining ships and research platforms. Their weapons technology remained centuries behind even the Empire's oldest designs. They had never even detected the Vorthok scout ships that had been studying them. Commander, The communications officer called from his station. "We are receiving a transmission from the target world." Thyrak raised one scaled eyebrow. Most primitive species couldn't detect Imperial fleets until they were much closer to their homeworld. Perhaps human sensors were slightly more advanced than intelligence suggested. It mattered little. Display. The transmission. A crackling voice filled the command deck, speaking in the barbaric human language their computers easily translated. "Unknown fleet, this is Terra Defense Command. You have entered human space without authorization. State your purpose immediately or withdraw from this system." Several bridge officers exchanged amused glances. Human space. These primitives believed they owned an entire star system based on occupying one small planet. The audacity would have been impressive if it weren't so pathetic. "They can detect us at this range?" Thyrak asked his sensor operator. "Impossible, Commander. We are 18 light hours from their homeworld. Their technology should not possess sensors capable of long-range detection at this distance." Strange. Perhaps the humans had better observation equipment than scouts reported. No matter, superior sensors would not save them from 800 warships bearing down on their world. "Open a response channel," Thyrak ordered. Time to deliver the standard ultimatum that preceded every conquest. "Channel open, Commander." Thyrak straightened to his full imposing height, his purple scales darkening with authority. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, I am Commander Thirok of the Vorthok Imperial Fleet. Your system has been designated for Imperial annexation. You have one rotation of your homeworld to evacuate this system completely or face total annihilation. This is your only warning." The response came faster than expected, and the voice was different this time. Older, with an accent their translation systems struggled to process clearly. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the United Earth Defense Force. You've made a serious mistake coming here, alien. You have one chance to turn that fleet around and leave our system immediately. That's your only warning." Complete silence fell across the command deck. In 37 conquests, no primitive species had ever responded to Imperial ultimatum with threats of their own. Most begged desperately for mercy. Some attempted futile negotiations. A few simply went silent in absolute terror. None had ever told a Vorthok commander to leave. "Did that primitive just threaten us?" Vex asked in disbelief. "It appears so," Thyrak replied, though something cold was beginning to form in his stomach. "Perhaps this conquest will prove more interesting than anticipated." "Commander," the sensor operator called urgently, confusion clear in his tone, "I am detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system. Very strong energy signatures that were not present in our initial scans." "Explain." "There appear to be installations on several outer planets and their moons that were not in our intelligence reports. The asteroid belt is showing massive metallic concentrations that should not exist based on our surveys. And Commander," the operator paused, checking his readings again, "there are ships out there." "Many ships." Thyrak moved quickly to the sensor station and examined the display. What he saw defied all logic and intelligence reports. Instead of a few primitive space stations and mining vessels, the screen showed installations throughout the human system, bases on distant planets, massive structures hidden within asteroid fields, and ships. Hundreds of ships moving in precise military formations. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our scouts reported basic space capabilities. Where did these installations come from?" "Commander," the communications officer interrupted urgently, "we are being scanned. Multiple sources throughout the system. very sophisticated scanning arrays. They are conducting detailed analysis of our entire fleet composition. The cold feeling in Thyrak's stomach intensified. Sophisticated scanning technology was not something primitives possessed. The humans were examining his fleet with equipment that should not exist on their world, using sensors that should have been beyond their technological capability. The human admiral's voice returned, and this time Thyrak could hear something that made his scales prickle with unease. Confidence. Absolute, unshakable confidence. You see, Commander Thyrak, we know exactly who you are. We know about your empire. We know about your conquest fleets, and what you've done to 47 other worlds. What you don't know is that we've been expecting you for quite some time. Expecting us. That's impossible. The system was only discovered by Imperial scouts 8 months ago. Wrong again, alien. We found one of your scout ships 12 years ago, shot it down over the Pacific Ocean, and pulled every piece of technology out of it. Took us a while to figure out how it all worked, but humans are pretty good at reverse engineering things we want to understand. Thyrak felt his confidence beginning to waver for the first time in decades. Imperial scout ships were equipped with the most advanced stealth technology in the galaxy. They were virtually undetectable to primitive species. How had these humans found one? How had they learned to use Vorthok technology? You made one critical error in judgment, Commander. You assumed we were like all the other species you've conquered. Peaceful farmers and researchers who never saw you coming and never fought back. Well, Commander, humans aren't farmers. We're apex predators. We've been perfecting the art of warfare since we learned to make tools. And now, thanks to your people, we've learned how to wage war among the stars. The sensor operator looked up from his station, his face pale with shock. Commander, long-range scans are detecting massive fleet movements throughout the system. These are not primitive vessels. Energy signatures match or exceed our own technological capabilities. Thyrak stared at the tactical display as red dots appeared across the human solar system. Each dot represented a warship. Not the crude chemical rockets intelligence had promised, but genuine military vessels with advanced weapon systems and defensive capabilities. Dozens of them appeared, then hundreds, then more than his computers could accurately count in real time. Impossible, he whispered. Commander Thyrak, his communications officer said quietly, the human admiral is speaking again. We gave you a fair chance to leave peacefully, Commander. You chose to threaten our homeworld instead. That's perfectly fine with us. Earth has been preparing for this fight for over a decade, and we've been looking forward to testing our new toys on someone who deserves it. The human's voice carried something Thyrak had never heard from a primitive species before. Not just confidence, but eager anticipation, bloodthirsty excitement. The tone of a predator that had been patiently waiting for prey to walk into its trap. Thank you for bringing us the largest fleet in your empire's history, Commander. This is going to be educational for both our species. Thyrak stared out at the stars, realizing with growing horror that everything intelligence had told him about these humans was completely wrong. They weren't primitive farmers waiting to be harvested. They were something far more dangerous. They were hunters who had been preparing for his arrival, and he had just flown 800 ships directly into their web. Asterisk. The Trap Springs Admiral Marcus Kane stood in the command center of Lunar Base, watching tactical displays that showed the Vorthok fleet maintaining position at the system's edge. Around him, dozens of officers coordinated humanity's response to the alien threat they had been preparing to face for over a decade. The moment had finally arrived, and Kane felt nothing but cold determination. "Fleet status report," he ordered, "Captain." Sarah Chen, his tactical coordinator, checked her displays before responding. "All defensive platforms are online and ready. Mars shipyards have released the 3rd Fleet. Jupiter Command reports the 5th Fleet is moving to intercept positions. The asteroid defense network is fully active and awaiting targeting data." Kane nodded with satisfaction. For 12 years, ever since they had recovered that crashed Vorthok scout ship, humanity had been preparing for this day. They had studied alien technology, reverse-engineered their weapons, and built defenses throughout the solar system. Most importantly, they had learned to think like their enemies. "What's the alien fleet doing?" Kane asked. "Holding position. Sir, they seem confused by our response. Intelligence suggests they expected immediate surrender or panic. They underestimated us. That's going to be their first and last mistake." Through the command center's main viewport, Kane could see Earth, hanging in space like a blue jewel. 8 billion humans lived on that world, and every single one of them was counting on the defenses they had built. He would not let them down. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "Commander Thyrak is attempting to re-establish contact. Put him through." The alien commander's image appeared on the main screen. His reptilian features showed strain and confusion that had not been present during their first exchange. "Admiral Kane, perhaps we can reach an understanding. The Vorthok Empire is not unreasonable. We could establish trade agreements, cultural exchanges." Kane cut him off with a harsh laugh. "Commander, we've studied your cultural exchanges with 47 other worlds. Every single one ended with mass graves and slave camps. We know exactly what the Vorthok Empire offers, and we're not interested. You cannot possibly hope to defeat 800 Imperial warships with your primitive technology." "Primitive?" Kane smiled coldly. "Captain Chen, would you care to show Commander Thyrak just how primitive human technology has become?" Chen's fingers danced across her control panel. Throughout the solar system, hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as asteroids, research stations, and mining facilities began powering up. Energy signatures blazed across every scanner as humanity's true defensive network revealed itself. "What you're looking at, Commander, is the result of 12 years of continuous preparation. We've built weapon platforms on every major body in this system. We've constructed shipyards that can produce vessels faster than your empire can count them. And we've developed weapons that your people have never seen before." The tactical display showed Vorthok ships beginning to maneuver as their sensors detected the massive energy buildups throughout the solar system. They were realizing, too late, that they had flown into a carefully prepared killing field. "Impossible," Thyrak said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No species has ever built defenses on this scale. No species has ever had 12 years to study your technology and improve on it," Kane replied. "You see, Commander, humans have a talent for taking other people's inventions and making them better. Your scout ship taught us everything we needed to know about Vorthok engineering. Then we added our own innovations." Kane gestured to Captain Chen, who activated the first phase of their defensive plan. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, massive railgun platforms began charging their magnetic accelerators. Each platform was built into a hollowed-out asteroid, camouflaged from detection until the moment they fired. "Those are our asteroid defense stations," Kane explained as energy readings spiked across the Vorthok sensors. Each one can accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The projectiles themselves are depleted uranium slugs. wrapped in a crystalline matrix we developed from your own armor technology. They hit harder than anything in your arsenal. You're bluffing, Thyrak said, but Kane could see fear beginning to show in the alien's eyes. Captain Chen, target the lead dreadnought. 1 round, center mass. Targeting solution, locked. Admiral, fire. The asteroid platform clanging hammer discharged its massive railgun with a flash of electromagnetic energy that could be seen from Earth. The depleted uranium slug, accelerated to 87% of light speed, crossed the distance to the Vorthok fleet in minutes. The alien dreadnoughts. Shields flared brilliantly as they tried to deflect the incoming projectile, but kinetic weapons at these velocities carried too much energy to be stopped. The slug punched through the ship's defenses like they were made of paper and tore completely through the vessel from bow to stern. The mighty dreadnought, pride of the Vorthok fleet, broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions as its reactor core breached. In seconds, a warship that had conquered dozens of worlds was reduced to expanding debris. The bridge of the Eternal. Conquest fell silent as Thyrak stared at the destruction in disbelief. 1 shot. You destroyed a dreadnought with 1 shot. That was just a demonstration, Commander. We have over 200 platforms like that scattered throughout the system. Each one is targeted on a different ship in your fleet. Kane watched as panic began to spread through the alien formation. Ships that had been moving in perfect order suddenly broke formation as captains realized they were all individual targets in humanity's crosshairs. But wait, there's more, Kane continued, unable to keep the satisfaction out of his voice. Captain Chen, activate the Jupiter Defense Network. Hidden bases on Jupiter's moons began launching waves of missiles. Not primitive nuclear weapons, but fusion-powered projectiles, guided by artificial intelligence systems that could think and adapt faster than any organic pilot. Each missile could adjust its course, coordinate with others, and select optimal targeting points on enemy vessels. 300 missiles inbound from Jupiter, Sir Chen reported. Estimated time to target, 47 minutes. And the Mars fleet, Second Fleet, is moving to flank their formation from below the ecliptic plane. Third Fleet is approaching from the opposite vector. They'll be caught in a crossfire. Kane turned back to Thyrak's image on the screen. The alien commander was receiving reports from his own officers, and his expression grew more desperate with each update. You see, Commander, while you were planning to conquer one primitive world, we were planning to destroy 800 advanced warships. We've studied every battle your empire has ever fought. We know your tactics, your weapon capabilities, your armor specifications. We know how fast your ships can turn, how much damage they can absorb, and exactly how to kill them efficiently. This is impossible, Thyrak said again, but now he sounded like he was trying to convince himself rather than Kane. Let me explain what's about to happen, Kane continued relentlessly. In 45 minutes, 300 fusion missiles will reach your fleet. Each one is programmed to target a different ship and will detonate with the force of a small star. At the same time, our railgun platforms will fire a coordinated salvo that will destroy your remaining dreadnoughts. 5 minutes after that, 2 human fleets will arrive in weapons range and finish off whatever survives the initial attack. Kane paused, letting the information sink in. Or you can surrender now, and will allow your crews to live as prisoners of war. Your choice, Commander. Thyrak looked around his bridge at officers who were staring at their tactical displays in horror. The humans had turned his overwhelming advantage into a death trap. 800 ships that should have easily conquered one primitive world were about to be systematically destroyed by defenses that shouldn't exist. How did you do this? Thayrak asked quietly. How did one species build all of this in just 12 years? Kane's expression softened slightly. Because, Commander, when humans work together toward a common goal, we can accomplish the impossible. Your empire rules through fear and conquest. We built this through cooperation and shared purpose. Every human in this system contributed to these defenses. Every single person understood that our survival depended on preparing for your arrival. We have 42 minutes until those missiles arrive, Kane continued. I suggest you start giving surrender orders to your fleet. Because, in 43 minutes, any ship that hasn't powered down its weapons and shields is going to become part of the expanding debris field. Commander Thayrak looked one last time at the tactical display showing hundreds of human weapons converging. On his fleet, for the first time in Vorthok history, an Imperial conquest fleet was facing certain annihilation. The humans had not just prepared a defense, they had prepared a slaughter. All ships, Thayrak said quietly into his communicator, power down weapons and shields. Prepare to surrender. Kane nodded with grim satisfaction. Welcome to human space. Commander, you're going to find that things work a little differently here.